So a lot of people may not know this, but today is, if you got a PPP loan back when all of this started, today is when a lot of those loans are now going to start coming due. And if you're going to be asking for forgiveness of those loans, this is when you need to start getting your applications in. So you want to make sure that you are reaching out to your lender. I'm sure most lenders are trying to offer a streamlined process to do this, but whoever you got the loan from, you need to take a look at this. Because if you're going to ask for forgiveness of some of those, there's obviously documents and financial records you're going to need to provide. I wanted to make this video though because I'm getting some really good questions from some folks. I've done several small business consultations with folks that unfortunately the pandemic has crushed them. Being shut down, whatever the reasons, they're not able to continue with their business. But these folks did get the PPP money and they used it, for what they needed to use it for. But at the end of the day, they're still going to have to file bankruptcy. So these people are nervous about, I just took this money. But what if I'm going to have to file for bankruptcy? Well, here's the thing. I would definitely urge you, take a look at your loan documents. As long as you use the funds for what they were designated for, you haven't committed fraud. You've done exactly what you needed to do. So in that regards, just check your loan docs. And I realize that the way some of these loans were written, it's very ambiguous. Like they can even change the rules as they go along. So as a bankruptcy attorney, we haven't seen this yet, right? So when we start to file cases, we're going to start, of course, filing bankruptcy on some of these loans, because if you're filing, most small business owners have to end up filing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy because they've personally guaranteed these loans. So, in that case, you're going to have to list the SBA and whatnot. And so, you need to make sure if you took an SBA loan, that you used it for the purposes of the loan. Because I have a feeling that when folks start filing for bankruptcy, yes, the government is definitely going to be scrutinizing these bankruptcies that have these loans in them to make sure that the funds were actually used for what they were allocated for. So if you're thinking, like I said, if you're thinking about filing bankruptcy and you have one of these loans, just be checking your documents to make sure that you've got everything in the up and up, because this is what I could foresee happening. I think probably what will happen is when people start filing bankruptcy on these loans, the SBA is probably going to do a little bit of diligence, ask for some information in terms of how those funds were spent. You don't want to have to incur additional costs though in your bankruptcy if you don't answer those questions, if you don't provide information. You could be looking at depositions, we call them 2004 exams. You could be looking at an adversary case, which is a separate lawsuit in your bankruptcy case, which could go on forever, and it could cost you lots and lots of money to try to defend it if you weren't cooperating or if you weren't, providing information. So, if you're thinking about filing bankruptcy and you've got one of these loans, sometimes you have to shut down your bank accounts and whatnot before you file. I would really, really encourage you to make sure that you have got all your bank records downloaded, printed out, all your financial documents downloaded, printed out, so that if you do have to go the bankruptcy route, you have the documentation to show what you did with that money. Because when you file bankruptcy, your creditors most certainly have the right to ask you questions and to make sure that the funds were not used for a fraudulent purpose. Because if they were, you could be looking at a lot of pain if you file a bankruptcy case, and that debt will not be discharged. They will most definitely challenge it. So I just wanted, like I said, do this quick clip because I'm starting to get a lot of questions, a lot of emails about this, and that's the best advice I can give folks, is just be prepared. Have your bank records, show where you spent the money. If you're using it for your payroll, have your payroll records, but make sure you've got all of that downloaded, already prepared, so that if your bank accounts get shut off for whatever reason, because you filed bankruptcy, whatnot, you want to make sure that you've already got all of your data, so you're not, looking at additional costs, trying to subpoena records to rebuild all of this. But if you've got any questions about bankruptcy, about any issues with the SBA PPP loans and bankruptcy, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we're happy to answer questions.